then we are not going to be able to have high vibrational thoughts and realize that we want to get the hell out of there.
Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Conscious Souls. We're so happy for you to join us today. We are going to have a very, very interesting subject. We're going to talk about looking into the eye of fear. How do I look fear into the eye? And I'm going to interview our wonderful Patricia, who's just an amazing healing coach.
Thank you, Victoria. And this is Victoria, and she's a soul activation coach.
And we are Conscious Souls.
Yes, we are.
Our mission and purpose here today, for those of you that are new to our channel, our mission and purpose is to spread consciousness, because we believe that it's time that we all go back into ourselves within that sacred place where love and light and joy is born, and to live from that space fully and entirely and authentically as the beautiful beings that we are. So let's get started, my darling. Are you ready, Patricia?
I am.
Are you ready that we are diving deep? Okay. So I would say, let's start with an introduction about fear. We are all familiar with fear. Fear is, I would say, a human condition that we all learn. I remember, when you are born, you are love. Fear is what we learn. So because we learn fear is a conditioned state of our consciousness or our minds, because it's a mental thing, I believe our soul never really knew fear, because the soul knows it's sacred and it is invincible. So it is the ego part, it is the conditioned human part of us that experiences fear as a result of imaginations, past trauma, past experiences, or maybe even projections to the future based on past experiences. So with that being said, Patricia, what would you understand under fear? Tell us, what is fear for you?
Wow, okay. Going straight to the point, huh? Okay.
Yep, you know me. Straight to the bullseye.
Fear is this invisible force that we make up in our mind. Fear does not exist, and by we thinking about it and feeling it, it becomes our reality. Fear is created within ourselves, by ourselves, in our heads, with a group of thoughts, and those thoughts manifest into reality. And because they are based on fear, our reality is surrounded by fear, because that's all we see within, that's all we're going to see outside as well. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So you said something very interesting. You said fear starts within and then it spreads around.
So we live on a feedback loop. So we think something, our reality adjusts to that, and then we see our reality, and then we have thoughts based on that reality, and then again we express those thoughts and our reality adjusts to that, and it's just like a loop. And people don't understand that we are actually in control of that loop. If we just take the power back, it's not about taking the power back, because the power has always been ours. It's realizing that we have the power, not some external thing, not our parents, not our family, not our society, not our government. We have the power within us. And by saying that we don't have the power within us, we are actually making that a reality. We are that powerful. Everything we say, everything we think, if we believe that we are not powerful, then it's exactly what we're going to be, not powerful. And then you're going to be like, oh, but you know what? I've always been like this, it's society, it's the government, it's this person, it's that person. No. And who's allowing this and that person to stay in your life? You.
Yeah.
Right? So
Absolutely.
if you break that pattern, if you realize, wait a minute, reality is projected on me. You know, as Joe Dispenza says, your personality is your personal reality. So how you see yourself, how you see how powerful you are or submissive you are, that's how it's going to be reflected into the world. And once you realize that you have the power, you can stop this feedback loop and be like, no, wait a minute, I don't like this reality. Let's go back. I'm going to change the way I think and project different things. And then you're in harmony with your reality because you're in harmony with yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that elaboration. You know, and I want to go straight in because you are a very courageous being, and this is why I wanted to interview you today in this podcast, because you had the courage. Okay, so there's many of us out there who are working in a corporate job and we're not happy because we realize we're not really working for the good of the world, for the good of all. We're working for the good of one particular person or one particular company, but we realize that what we do is actually not something that is for the light. It is something that maybe brings money to certain people, but it's not really connected to our desire of finding oneness with all life forms again. So you had the courage to quit your corporate job. Tell us a little more about this, Patricia.
Hi. It's still very fresh and very vulnerable, this decision. But yeah, I've been wanting to quit my job for some time. So some background story. I've been working for like, I think, how long? Like 4.5, almost 5 years. And it all started when I moved from Portugal to Denmark, and here I studied for 1.5 years, and then I took half a year to just figure it out. I was planning actually to leave Denmark for that time, but I decided to stay, and I got a job as a graphic designer. That was what I wanted to do. Actually, I wanted to do motion design, but I decided, okay, it's a lot of the path to go to motion. You have to learn the basics of graphic design first, because motion design is actually graphic design that moves. So I had to learn that, and in the beginning I sucked at it. I can tell you that university did not teach the things I needed to learn. All that I've learned about motion design was by myself, truly. So, and I mean, that's no exception. Anyone can do that. There's so many other professions you can do that nowadays. Especially because this is a visual profession, right? People see what you can do. People see your videos. So you don't need, a degree. Unless you believe you need a degree. Then, if you believe you need a degree, then you do need a degree. So I was doing this, I got a job as a graphic designer. Then I had to leave that job, and then I got another job as a junior graphic designer as well, and then that evolved into a motion design job. I got promoted, and that job was very important for me because I learned to stand up for myself in that company. And my boss was very toxic. He didn't really care about mental health. He was like, my way or the highway, and he was quite young. I mean, it's really funny because he has the age that I have now, and I've become a manager as well. So I wouldn't say that he was quite young, I would just say he was quite immature. He's quite immature, and I learned to stand up for myself and for my colleagues that were suffering the same. I had a lot of anxiety. I allowed this person to give me a lot of anxiety. I would wake up so anxious every day and dreading going to work and feeling it in my body, like everything was just not coherent, right? So I managed to get my courage and I had this thing that every time I confronted people, and I realized that this would happen every time that I confronted people that were not listening to me, that I would feel like I was talking to a wall. I would cry. And people would be like, why are you crying? Like, they would not take me seriously, because who takes you seriously if you're mad but you're crying? Like, you know? But later on I understood that I was crying because I didn't feel heard. And this goes back for my parents, of course, but this specific boss of mine, he wouldn't listen to me. Like, he would not see what I was telling him, the pain that I wanted to change, you know? And sometimes it would happen that I would have to kind of like dissociate a little bit and stop myself from feeling when I was with him, so I could be firm and I could be, look, this is what I need and this is what's going to happen. Because if I would be connected to my feelings, I would cry. And sometimes when this happened, I actually didn't remember much of the interaction. Actually, I never talked about this with you, Victoria. It's very interesting. So I remember I had this, I'm not sure if this is going too outside of the subject, so you let me know.
What I want to point out here is that we are all feeling beings, and you said it beautifully. Oftentimes in corporate jobs, we just have to function like robots because we are not being heard or seen as the feeling beings that we are. We are there to do a job, and that's who we are, basically, or that's who we are in the eyes of our authorities, so to speak. Authorities, of course, quote unquote, right? We know we are only our own authority. But yeah, so I believe that, so what I get from your explanation, Patricia, is that you basically quit because you did not feel heard, you did not feel seen as the one that you are, and you had to kind of shut off from your feeling being. And who we are feeling beings. We cannot just shut off from that part. We are always feeling, you know, and by definition, as human beings, we are feeling beings. So basically, you quit your job because you just had to basically perform as a robot. Is that correct?
Well, not only that. I don't think I was aware enough at that time to realize that. I'm realizing that now. So I'm gonna continue explaining this, if it's okay with you, because I think it really matters for explaining for our listeners why I decided to finally quit my job, and not because I'm gonna look for another corporate job. No, I'm done with corporate world, and I think this whole story is very important.
Absolutely, please go ahead. Mm-hmm.
So with this boss, I had to kind of like dissociate a little bit, so I was able to be strict and ask for what I needed, and I got it, but at the cost of actually not remembering much of the interaction because I was dissociating a little bit. Actually, I wanted to share with you guys, this boss of mine, he knew I was in therapy back in the day, and I was taking these medicines at the time for a specific acne problem that I had. The doctor told me that these pills could actually affect my stomach and I could feel bad, you know. And I told my boss, I came into our meeting, just the one-on-one that we usually have, and I said, oh, I'm actually taking these pills. And then he said, oh, for your head? I just thought that was like completely crazy. Like, you should never say that to someone, even if they don't go to therapy. Like, it's insane. So it just showed me that he was so not in touch with his feelings and his love and his connection with others. It was not the place for me, that place, which is not the place that I'm living now. It's the previous one. So then I kind of started a revolution in the company with my two other colleagues, and we were working a lot of hours, a lot of extra hours, and we were not getting paid more. They were like, yeah, okay, we'll give you, we'll pay for dinner for you and your partner. And I'm like, I've been working like, a whole week, or 40 hours, and you're gonna give me a dinner, like an hour and a half of food. All I need is to, sleep and rest. And I told them that, and they're like, but are you not grateful for the dinner? And I'm like, I was just like, how come are you not seeing this?
Yeah. Okay, Patricia, can I ask you to talk a little bit about your previous? I mean, you just, when I said that you quit your job, you are now talking, you didn't talk about the work that you did
Yes.
in your last job, but it was a previous job, correct? So
Yeah.
basically, you're sharing your experiences about the corporate world. Okay, can you share a little bit about the experiences so we can actually get back to the theme, looking into
Yes,
the
of
eye of
course.
fear?
Of course. So now I'm just going to talk about my current job, right?
Yeah, why are you leaving this job?
Well, because I just don't want to be in the corporate world anymore. It was a hard decision because I'm 26 and I'm a manager right now, and people always told me, "Oh my God, you achieved so much, you got so far, In actually just 4 years of working in the industry, I got here, and I always attached a lot of value to that. This human Patricia being the manager and the role model and praised by everyone in my family. Look how far, you're only so young. And I started to realize at this job that I was not happy. I was also working for what we call the dark forces. I was working for these companies that didn't give a shit about human beings. They just care about money. Yes, they have their sustainability causes, and I realized that what I do, I was actually very good at it, but I was doing for companies that they don't care about us. They don't care about our humanity. They don't care about our feelings and our emotions. It kind of really opened my eyes, and I started to see, the fact that we have a cantina at the office, and the food we are served, and the actually we have a kitchen as well with snacks and chocolate and gummies and all that kind of stuff. And we have fruits as well, of course, and bread. But I was realizing, okay, all these foods they're putting in front of us. And I told you the other day, Victoria, that they have this thing on Mondays that they put gummies in the kitchen for the Monday blues, because no one wants to come to work on Monday, so to cheer them up, they put gummies. And I'm like, they feeding us this low vibrational food so that we never realize that we actually don't want to be here. Because if you feed us with this matching low vibrational food, then we're going to be in low vibration. Then we are not going to be able to have high vibrational thoughts and realize that we want to get the hell out of there. And I started to realize, okay, I don't want to be in this office anymore. There's music in the bathroom. Like, even in the bathroom, you can't be with your own thoughts. How crazy is that? You always been controlled. You always been broadcasted this low vibrational energy all around. And I started to feel sick at the office. Like, there's music even when you're working. There's speakers all around. And the people at the office are very low vibrational as well. This is why I'm leaving.
Yeah, it definitely does. So let's get back to looking into the eye of fear. What was the click, Patricia? I wonder, what was the final click that gave you the courage to say, okay, I'm going to leave now? Because so many wonderful souls out there are still in jobs, but they believe that they have no choice. That what am I going to do when I leave this job? How am I going to pay my bills, right? So there's a lot of those human fears, these existential fears. So what gave you the courage, that moment of click, in 3 or 5 words? What was it?
I can't tell you in 3 or 4 words. Come on.
Okay. Tell us.
You're talking to describe a moment. I can describe a moment with 4 words.
Well, I mean, I can imagine that in my case, I would have said desperation. Basically a feeling, what was the feeling?
A feeling. You told me to describe a moment. Okay. A feeling was, I would say, feeling suffocated.
Okay, so now let's go with this. In my case, it would have been desperation. In your case, it's suffocation. I believe that there are so many of you wonderful souls out there kind of like feeling that same feeling already in your everyday work. So, okay, so you felt suffocated. What gave you the courage, Patricia, to do that step? To go to your boss and say, you know what, I resign. I cannot do this any longer.
So, I've been wanting to quit this job for a long time, at least a year. Not because a year ago I realized that I was working for the dark forces and so on. For other reasons, I just don't want to, I want to be independent, have my, my own business and whatever. And I did not realize back then that I was working for the dark forces. But I wanted to leave for a year. And I always thought, okay, when I have another source of income matching the same income as this job, I'll leave. And I started doing my own thing. I started doing my coaching. But it has not matched at all yet my income from work. And I was like, okay, but I don't want to stay here. I really don't. What I hear a lot is that you take the leap of faith first, you change your thoughts first, and then your reality will adjust, like just I was saying before. So you take the leap of faith, and then the reality will adjust to that. Instead of waiting for reality to adjust and then taking the leap of faith, because then it's not really a leap of faith because, your reality had already adapted. But the thing is that your reality adapts to your thoughts. So if you still believe that you need to have that income to leave your job, then you're going to be doing this for years and years until that happens. Instead, you change your thoughts, you change your reality. And so I believe that by changing my thoughts and deciding to quit and leaving this job to the unknown, I feel like I'm going completely in the unknown because I'm not only quitting jobs. I'm actually leaving the country because I've only been in Denmark now because of my job. So I'm moving countries. I'm jobless from the corporate world and I'm going completely into the unknown. And something that I struggled in the past was that I needed control. I always needed to know where I was going, the plan, kind of at least like half a year in advance. It was never like chill. It was never chill. It was never going with the flow. And now I'm completely letting go. And by the end of this month, when we're recording this, we're recording on the 4th of August. So by the end of August, I'm out of here. And I have an idea of where I'm going to go for the next 3 months, but then that's it. I don't know how it's gonna go there. I don't know any of the people there. I have no idea. And honestly, I'm excited. I'm so excited.
Good.
I'm so excited. And so you asked me the moment that it made me realize all this. I think it was a lot of moments, Victoria. I think it was a lot of drops. I can tell you that it was last Thursday that I had a call with one of my clients, and she asked me something. She was trying to find a time for our coaching sessions. I was always suggesting times that were after my working hours, my 9 to 5. So she asked me, do you do this full time, part time, or are you experimenting? And something in me felt, okay, I don't want to say that I do this part time because that's not true. I do this with my full heart. For me, this is a full time job. But I also don't feel like this is a full-time job, because I still have my job at the agency. But I replied to her and I said, I do this full-time. And I think that triggered something in me, and then triggered that I needed to do this truly full-time, and I needed to leave this corporate world. And then I got home and I had a whole existential crisis that day. And I indulged in my coping mechanisms and my sabotaging mechanisms. And then I cried, and it was a whole mix of things. And then we had a talk, Victoria, and I was way more calm by the end of the day. And then the next day I decided I'm out of here. And everything just started to flow. I found someone to get my apartment really fast. And I thought I was going to have to convince her, but I didn't. She was almost convincing me to go. So it was amazing. And I found this beautiful place that I'm going to go next month. And it was also I didn't have to force anything. It was just flowing. So this really makes me feel like it's the right decision. It's the right path for me. And something, a force, the universe, me, it's holding myself, and I'm not alone.
Yeah, you're reminding me of that beautiful poem of Rumi, who said, you cannot see the path while you are in a place of darkness, but start walking the path, and the path will appear every step of your way. So you always only see the first part of the path. You don't see it entirely. You have no idea where this path is leading you. But I want to touch on You know, because we know that the universe got our back in anything we do, because we are sacred souls. Every single one of us is that sacred essence, that sacred being that is within our DNA, within our physical body, and it's glowing out of us. The more we ignite it, the more we become conscious of it and align with it and reconnect with it. So I want to talk more about the miracles, you know, because we're talking about looking into the eye of fear. But when we do that, because fear is just an illusion and it suddenly would dissipate like one of those, you know, how do they call this? These soap bubbles that children do, you know, they have the thing and then they're blowing and out come these beautiful soap bubbles. And then at one moment they would just dissipate in the air. They would, you know, just blow up. So in a way, what you did is so beautiful because it shows us how fear can just dissipate like one of these bubbles, you know. Tell us a little bit out from your miracles. I mean, what happened once you took the decision, once you quit your job? Tell us a little bit about what happened. And I already, you know, you told me already many things, but I want to really share it with our audience because I think it is very encouraging for people out there that are still in this fear. Oh my God, how am I going to survive? To know that, to know how the universe got your back and how the universe is actually showing you that you're on the right path. So,
I want to just mention before I dive into that question that fear, for me, has not dissipated completely. I'm still having my existential crisis after I quit my job, but it's not as strong as before, and it's easier to go back to feeling faith again. It's kind of like I know it's there, the fear, but I don't listen as much. But it still pops up. So, yeah. And, okay, so to answer your question, so after I quit my job, I decided to do that Friday last week, like really. I called another girl for my job, actually, for my corporate world. She has been looking for an apartment for a long time because she lives quite an hour and a half far from the city center, and she was actually looking for an apartment in my building, but no apartments have been available. So I call her, and her name is the same as me, and she's from the same country as me. So I'm like, can it be more? Can it be more? Can it be another sign? I mean, so I call her and I was like, do you want to take over my apartment? Because, you know, I would still have to be here for another 3 months paying rent, and I wanted to leave now, like as soon as possible. So I call her and she's like, let's do it. I'm doing it now. I'm calling my apartment now and letting you know I'm leaving. And I was like, what? I said, are you serious? Like, do you believe? Because I hadn't even quit my job. I was going to quit my job on Monday, right? With the office. So I was like, you really believe I'm going to actually quit my job? Like, you have that much faith in me? And she kind of gave me this less push even to go further and really do it, because she believed I was going to. So she decided to do that. I had someone to take over my apartment from the 1st of September. Great. That was the biggest issue because I don't want to have to pay rent for 3 months. So then Monday comes and I don't know what took over me on Monday, but I had never experienced this in my life. It was if I was being driven by a higher force. I was being taken. There was no fear in me at all this Monday. And it was the Monday that I sent an email for everyone in the leadership department in my company saying that I'm quitting. I didn't say, oh, let's talk about it. Oh, let's have a discussion. No, I said, I'm quitting. Let me know what are the next steps. Ta-da-da-da-da, right? And it was so funny because after that, I sent it to 7 people that are the leadership. And so many of them was like, can we talk? Can we talk? Like, kind of trying to see, because they didn't know. It was very out of nowhere, this decision, right? Even for me. So after that, everyone was coming to me and kind of very submissive to me. And I wasn't even doing anything. I was just standing in my power and being like, yeah, I'm leaving. And that's what's happening. And they were trying to convince me, and I said, no, I will only stay if I get to work fully remote and part-time and only management tasks. And they're like, yeah, that's not possible. I was like, okay.
Okay, so you had a plan B, so to speak, right?
Yeah, I had a way of, if they wanted me to stay, that would be the only way for me to stay. Fully remote and only 4 hours a day, only management tasks, because I actually really like managing people and interacting with my employees and everything. So I like that. That part I like. Because it's very much connected to coaching, it's very much, the human connection. So I love that part and I would love to continue doing that. So I told them that, and like, that's not possible, and like, okay. And then people were like, oh, you seem so confident, like, you seem so calm. And I'm like, yeah, I actually am. I actually am calm. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what happened that week before that you decided to quit your job. What did you see in your schedule, in your planning? You said you had like a digital planner.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was one of those signs as well that we should not ignore in life, right?
Yeah, so I have a calendar, like, on my phone. And I put everything there. And I have plans, everything I plan for next week, for today, our podcast, it's scheduled there. And I have my working hours from 9 to 5 every day for I had it there forever, for the rest of my life, The week that I decided to quit my job, so I decided to quit on a Friday, and on a Monday, I was having a coaching session with one of my clients, and I was gonna go into my calendar to put our next coaching session there, and something crazy had happened. I saw that the block that I have from 9 to 5 for my agency job was gone. It had disappeared. And I got chills. I was like, oh my God, what is this?
I believe it was the universe guiding you. Could that be?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. It was the universe telling me this is no longer your full-time job. And the instinct that I had, the first instinct that I had was like, okay, let me put it back. Let me put it back. And I was like, wait a minute. No. No, I don't want to do it. Let's not do it. And I didn't. And right now it's not there anymore.
Wow. Okay, so your calendar knew something that you had to go forward to, that you had to go towards to, and it was basically illuminating the path every step of the way. Okay, the week before you quit, no more calendar for your working hours, for your corporate working hours were indicated. And then Patricia came into your life, the lady, 3 days before you quit. Okay, I really need an apartment. And you were like, do you want to take over my apartment? And it worked out for both of you. Yeah. And then, just imagine all the miracles that can still happen. I think we're going to do a second podcast about this theme because it's so highly interesting. How do we overcome our fears? I believe that this is such an important theme that if you're up for it, Patricia, we could do a second podcast about it. But any last words from you, my darling, for our listeners today about how to overcome your fear, how to look fear into the eye? What are your last thoughts?
I was going to say open your ears and your eyes, but it's not even about open your ears and eyes. Open your heart, because your heart is going to see the things that you cannot see with your eyes and your ears. And that is how the universe communicates with you, through your intuition, through your heart. So let go of your thinking mind and listen to your heart. And by listening to your heart, you're going to tune into the frequency of the universe and just experience and just see that the universe has always had your back. You are the only one that was not listening before, and that's why things were not working out. But if you stop and you just see the miracles around you and the magic, you're going to see that you're being guided by this force that is taking you in the path that you want to go and you deserve to go and that you should go. Yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, my dear. Thank you for today's podcast. It was amazing. We certainly hope that it gave you, for all of you that are out there thinking about quitting your job because it no longer fulfills you. It doesn't give you what you need. It doesn't fulfill your heart. It doesn't make you happy. We hope that it gave you a lot of courage, a lot of trust, that there is this presence of life that loves you more than you could imagine. And with these words, blessings to all of our listeners, and we'll see you in the next podcast. Bye for now.
Bye.